everyone, so today we're going to be taking a look at NoRootSquash, where we have an NFS mount. And before we start that, I want to show you a couple things that I'm working on. So I do have a course right now with Simply Cyber. It's $24.99 for life. The proceeds that I receive, which is about 50% of that course, go straight toward autism. And I'm actually working on a second course right now. I'm going to hop over to it real quick. I'm also working on a Linux course right now. Today is August 16th. So 2025, so that should be done soon. And in the description of this video, we'll go ahead and we'll throw a 10% discount on the different courses. But you can see the things that you'll learn throughout this course. And yeah, I had a great time making it. Had a lot of fun doing it, just like I did with the Active Directory course. So far, a lot of really good feedback with the Active Directory courses sitting over here. Going through things like enumeration and Azure roasting, Kerber roasting, Bloodhound. Going through DACL abuses, responder, INV, NTLM relay, bunch of DACL abuses actually, because we both go through on both Linux and Windows. Going through ADCS, doing ESC 1 through 4, doing some pivoting in there, MSSQL, and lastly, the domain takeover. So a lot of different things that we look at in it, going on both Windows and Linux for a lot of different things, especially the DACL abuses. That's one of the biggest parts for Windows and Linux. Just, had a lot of fun making it. And within the Linux course, we build the VMs, we build our Kali VM also. We go through and do some Linux enumeration, some network testing, which is what we're going to be looking at today with the NFS misconfigurations, some privilege escalation, some tunneling, a lot of stuff in tunneling. I did remote, local, the GOLO, forwarding out to a different port, forwarding from like an internal, like a whole other internal network back to the outside, things like that. Did a whole bunch of different ways with that. And also Metasploit and Legolo, like I said. And then lastly, looking at persistence also. Not really going too deep into that, and I kind of explain why in the course, why we're not going too deep into persistence. But let's go ahead and kick it off. Like I said, there'll be a 10% discount. So we'll hop over to our Kali machine here, and we go ahead and kick this off. So we have an Ubuntu machine. Sitting at 192.168.12.152. If I do attack P 2049, I go ahead and throw that into there. We'll see that NFS is open. So we know that it is open. Like I said, this is a NFS video like right here. So another thing I can do is NXC. I can use netexec for NFS. NFS, put in the IP address there. We'll enter there. We can see that netexec actually looks at if root escape is true or not. That's NoRootSquash. So it is true in this, so that means that NoRootSquash should be true, whatever, because there's a no in front of it. So it's, like one of those like double negative things. But NoRootSquash, so that means that it is not squashing root whenever we get into it. So how do we exploit this, right? The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a directory. We can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it mount, right? And it already exists. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that real quick. I already unmounted it, so I can just remove that. I'll clear out of here. And technically, the very first thing I want to do is do a show mount. So we know that NFS is there. Let's go ahead and do a show mount. We'll hit enter there. We see that we have home Bob. We can also do this within netexec. We say NXC, NFS, that. And then if we do a tac help, we can actually see this tac ls, and then list files is specified path. We actually tac ls. So we can try to do something like that. Say tac ls. And we get a whole bunch of stuff in here, but this is all our stuff. So not really too useful for us, right? Let's go ahead and actually look at tac ls. Let's actually do a /home Bob, because we know that's the mount, right? And then there we go. We can see that we can now see home Bob. So cool. So since we can see that home Bob, we can do things within it, right? And we have that root escape of true. Let's mount this in there. So we'll do a sudo mount tac t NFS. What IP address do we want to mount? 192.168.12.152, right? That's the Ubuntu machine that's connected to this. I'm on 150, my IP address, /home Bob. And where do we want to mount that? We're going to mount that to mount. Enter here. And then we can go ahead. Oh, we got to make a directory first called mount. Then we can do that. Go ahead and do that again. And then there we are. Now, if I cd to mount, there we go. I'm now in that mounted directory. I am now technically on Bob's home directory. So anything I do in here will reflect on Bob's home directory. Okay, we see that SSH is in here. We try to log in with the SSH key, right? So we do a cd and a .sh. Oh, permission denied. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's do a sudo su. And we'll do the same exact thing. We'll cd.sh. Look at that. We get in. Now we also want to see, is no root mount actually on this, right? No root squash actually on this. Well, we can go ahead and look at that with a quick echo of test and the test.txt. If we do that and we see root here, that means that no root squash is true. It's not squashing root, right? However that looks at it. But we should see nobody, no group right here. That's what we should see. But since we see root, that means that we can run things as root on Bob's system. Let's go ahead and remove that test.txt and we'll see how can we actually exploit this. Using that .sh again. Let's go ahead and we have our IDRSA like right there. Well, we can go ahead and try logging with it. SHTech IDRSA Bob at the IP address. And it says enter passphrase. We don't have the passphrase. Let's go ahead and we're going to copy IDRSA and we'll copy that back a couple directories back into our desktop here. We'll enter there. We'll cd back. Whoops. cd/home Cali desktop. There we go. IDRSA. We can see that's now in there. Now we can do an SSH to John. For the IDRSA, we can bring that over to hash.txt. Enter there. So now if I cat that hash.txt, that's now in something that John the Ripper can read. Now what we can do is a John hash.txt with the wordless rocket.txt. And I've already cracked this because I've obviously already went through the course because I made the course. But what we can do is if we see something like that and we don't remember it, we can do like a locate john.pot. We can cat the file. Try cat this like real quick. And we see that that is I love you. Exclamation point, okay? Now if that didn't exist like right there, root tech RF, root john.pot, and we went ahead and we ran this SSH to John again, or John hash.txt. It's going to take a minute, but we do finally get that I love you exclamation point. So now we know the passphrase for it. Go ahead and sudo su again. And we'll go ahead and we'll cd into that .sh again. And we will go into that mount. So we can do our SSH tech IDRSA, boom, I love you, exclamation point. And then there we are. Now we're in here, right? So now what can I do? Now, if you remember, root could put files in here. All right, so if I echo that test.txt again, we'll see that ends up in there. Oh, I did that in desktop. I'll say maybe it doesn't. It should, but I did that in desktop. Let's go ahead and remove that test.txt from here. We'll cd back in that mount, and we'll do the same exact thing again. Now if I ls-LA, there we go. And it's owned by root. So we can see that now on Bob's home system, right? And home Bob, we see that test.txt. We do our ls-LA again, and it's gone. Well, why don't we try to copy bin bash over here? Okay, so let's go ahead and copy bin bash to right here. And we'll do like a change mode u+s for that bash, right? So now that bin bash now has an SUID bit, which will allow us to use GTFO bins to be able to exploit it. But there's going to be one problem with this. We can hand out GTFO bins. We can look at it. GTFO bins, right? And we'll go down and we'll do for bash. And it has an SUID bit because we just put that on it. It just says, here's a bash tag P. That's pretty easy, right? Now, if we run this, though, oh, it's not compiled the same. Huh. Well, now what? Right? This isn't compiled the same because it's coming from our Kali machine and being put onto this Ubuntu machine like right here, and they're, not the same. What we could do is we could do a uname tech A, download the same exact version and everything else, and go ahead and get back in the mount and do the same thing again. Or we can make our lives a lot easier. Go and remove tech R out that bash. We can just copy the bin bash that's already on the Ubuntu machine. Bin bash. We'll put it right here. All right, there's our bash. Okay. Now what we can do is go ahead and change mode u+s again for that bash. If I do my ls-LA again, we see it now has an SUID bit. And there we go. Bash is now like that. /bash tech P. And now we are root. If I do an ID, I am root. Now, if you're studying for OSCP, they always say like, oh, you gotta be root, you gotta be root, you gotta be root over in your UID. This counts as root. If you actually read their documentation, everything else, if you're in the group of root, if your EUID is root, you are root. Pretty much, if you can get to CD/root, you can do an ls-tech LA, or you can cat.bash history or whatever else, in root, you are root. Okay, that's what you are. So that was fun, but you are root, right? So if you're taking if you're studying for OSCP or whatever else, which I've always said, don't study for OSCP, study to learn hacking. OSCP will come second. But if you're studying things like that for that kind of stuff, then yes, you are technically root. You go and exit out of there. Now we're Bob again, right? So that's one way that we could possibly do this to be able to get into the machine and actually run something on that machine. We could have also looked for maybe cron jobs, or we could have tried to change a bash script, or we could have put a bash script in there that runs as root and whatever else. We could try to do a whole bunch of different things. We could make it out binary, right? We could compile something with tactac static, so then it doesn't matter what GCC this machine has, and then change that to be root and set UID to 0 and GID to 0 when it's ran, and then it drops a shell for you. There's 1,000 different things we could have done once we have the NFS and once we have that connection to that bunch of machine. Thousands of things we could have done, right? That's just one of the ways we can do it. Like I said in the beginning, 10% discount. It's going to be in the description. Thank you all very much for watching. I had a lot of fun making these courses. Probably going to be releasing more videos. And yep, you all have a good one.